We're taking the SATvan to all of the lower 48 states before the end of 2020. You guys want to join me for the journey? What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. Today we are talking about the SATvan 2020 road trip. Some of you may know this plan already and some of you may not. I brought it up a lot on some of my other social media platforms like Instagram, and if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on, that's definitely the best place to do it. I also brought this up in some previous videos like my 2020 goals video, and now I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more on what's to come for the rest of 2020. So for this year, I already feel like I've come a long way. We've had a ton of highs and lows already, and just to be at the point that I'm at right now is kind of mind-blowing to me. I can't thank you guys enough for watching all these videos and supporting everything that I do. Now, this is something that has sort of been a dream of mine for a little while now. As some of you may know, previously I was an IT consultant. I would travel around the entire country, picking up my entire life and moving every 6 months or so to a completely different city every single time. Now, I was doing that for about 4 or 5 years, and right when I started that job, I also started this YouTube channel. I was living sort of a crazy 9-to-5 style life, but I was doing it all over the country, constantly just moving around, and that's sort of when I got the urge to travel a little bit more. I also became a lot more minimal in those times. If you've been following the channel right from when it started, you may know that I was living in a hotel room for about 9 months up in Boston, Massachusetts. So a combination of all of the traveling and living minimally basically led me to this point that I'm at right now. About 2.5 years into my corporate job, I started making more money for myself on YouTube and this whole side business that I had been growing. So I decided that, hey, maybe some things are going to change in the future. It eventually got to a point where I was saving enough money that I felt financially stable enough to make some pretty big decisions, and that of course led to me leaving that corporate life and pursuing YouTube full time. So about 1.5 years later now, this is what we're doing. This is the whole life. This is how I make a living. There's a lot that goes into it, and I really don't share that personal side of my life all that much. But some of that stuff might change going forward, especially with this whole thing that we have going on now. So instead of settling down and buying a house after I was apartment hopping for the last 5 years of my life, I figured maybe doing this whole van life type of thing would work for me. This is basically me thinking in past tense now. You guys already know that I do have this SATvan. I did a small trip last summer, and that leads us to what we're doing now. So my main goal for 2020 is to get on the road starting at the end of this week actually, and I want to take the SATvan to all of the lower 48 states, every single one of them. Now over here behind me you will see a very rough map. Don't take anything too seriously. I've already shared photos of this on Instagram and some other places, and people are like, oh, why aren't you going here, or why aren't you going there? This is a very rough road map. I've been planning this out for, almost 6 months now. I've had this idea in my mind, and now I'm getting to a point where I'm actually going to execute on this, and basically I'm going to be winging it with this as a rough example. Now on my other social media platforms, I've been getting a ton of questions about this trip already, so I'm here to answer a few of those, starting with why the lower 48 states? What about Alaska and Hawaii? The easiest one to cross off that list is Hawaii, which is obviously an island, if you guys did not know that. I've literally gotten comments saying, why don't you take your van to Hawaii? Now, believe it or not, I've actually looked into chartering the SATvan to Hawaii. If I ever got that far, that would obviously be the last thing that I would ever do. And it would be very expensive to take a 10-foot tall Mercedes Sprinter van across the entire ocean just to be in Hawaii for a little while. Would I like to do that? Yes, of course. I think that would be insane and awesome. It would make for great videos, but that one is off of my list for right now. And then other people were asking about Alaska. Yes, I would love to visit Alaska for sure. However, that would be a huge, huge trip. Starting from the East Coast over here and then coming all the way down, zigzagging until I get out to the northern tip of Washington, that is about just as far as it would take for me to go from this tip in Washington all the way to Alaska, like Anchorage area. Some people don't realize how big Alaska actually is compared to the United States, but if you imagine my hand being Alaska, It's about that big compared to all the other states, even probably a little bit bigger than that. And then if you scale that up and put it on a map, Alaska would be way up here, like out of frame, and needless to say, it would take like more than a day of straight driving to get there. So my initial idea was to cross off the lower 48 states, which would be the easiest. It's by no means going to be easy, but it would be the easiest thing to do first. And then after that, if I still have some time remaining, I thought maybe I would just fly to Alaska and fly to Hawaii. But I of course have taken the van to a lot of these places before. The main goal is to take the van to these states. So I could go to all of the 50 states in 1 year, which would be a very cool goal. However, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do about Alaska and Hawaii just yet. I might make a game time decision when I'm up here in the Northwest in Washington State. Maybe if I'm feeling up for it, I'll just go gung-ho and drive up through Canada and make it to Alaska. It's hard because I'm doing this by myself, and that is a ton of driving. I know the sights would be beautiful, but I will cross that bridge when I get to it. Now, another question I've been getting is how can you afford to live on the road like that full-time for 6 months or more? The answer to that should be pretty straightforward, and that is YouTube. This is much more of a business than I ever expected it to be. There are a ton of different ways to make money online, and this is basically, well, it really is my full-time job now. I luckily have gotten this main channel remonetized now, and that was one of my very limiting factors to making this trip possible. So luckily I'm making a little bit of money from YouTube now. And then I have a ton of other things going on, which is where I make a majority of my money. Like, if you guys want to support what I do, you can pick up merch like shirts, hoodies, hats. I actually am wearing one of my shirts today too. All of that stuff you can find in the description down below. I've also picked up some sponsors, people who want to sponsor the van on this journey. And that's a whole nother support thing for me being able to do this, and I'm gonna explain more about that in some future videos. So long story short, how am I going to afford this? Basically by bringing you guys videos and just documenting the entire journey. Is it going to be easy? Hell no, it's definitely not. And I'm not going to try to glorify van life because it's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not waking up to beach views and everything like that every single day. A lot of times it's waking up in a Walmart parking lot after getting 4 hours of sleep and continuing until you can find the next cool spot to be. There's gonna be no frills to this entire trip. I'm going to give you guys videos as raw as possible, and chances are you're going to see a lot more into my personal life than you've ever seen before. A common misconception when I meet people in person is that they feel like they know everything about me. And granted, I do put a lot of my life out there on the internet for you guys to see. I want to know you guys as much as you guys know me. However, there is still a large portion of my personal life that never sees the internet. So during this trip, since it's going to be sort of intimate, being in close quarters in the van, you guys are going to learn a lot more about me, and you're going to see more of my personal life as we travel around. One other common question that I've been getting is, how are you going to live on the road? How are you able to do things like use the bathroom and shower while you're on the road? Now, anyone who is asking that question is probably very new to this channel. Maybe you have not seen the entire van before. So if you are in that boat, hello, welcome, consider subscribing because this journey is going to be pretty cool. But essentially, this entire van is completely livable. I have a fridge right back here. I have a stove top right over here. I have a sink here. In this right here, I have a full shower and a toilet, and it has basically everything that I need. I'm going to be bringing you guys some entire gear-oriented videos of everything that I'm going to have in here when the time is right. And that is all stuff that you guys can look forward to. If you are wondering how do I cook in here, I'm going to be showing you all of that stuff over the next couple of weeks and months. Now, one last thing, let's actually talk about the trip itself. When is it starting? Where exactly am I going? And what can you guys expect out of all of that? Currently, right now, I'm over here in Eastern Pennsylvania, and what I'm going to be doing is basically a warm-up lap. Starting later this week, I'm going to de-winterize the van. I'm going to fill it up with water, supplies, everything that I need, food, clothing, camera stuff. And then for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be doing a warm-up lap around the Northeast. The reason I'm doing this is because a lot of these states I've already been to: New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and probably even New Jersey. I'm going to do a quick 2-week spin around those states just because there's a lot of cool stuff to see that I haven't actually taken the van to. And in reality, this will give me a good idea of what I can expect personally for the next like 6 months or so. I'll be able to tell if I need more clothing, more food, more gear, whatever it is that I might need. This will basically be like a test run, and it will give you guys a little bit of an insight to what you can expect for the rest of the year. Now after that trip, I'm going to return back here to Pennsylvania for about 3 weeks or so. That way I can kind of tie up any loose ends, anything that I need to finish around here before I actually hit the road full time. And then about mid-April, I'm heading west. I'm gonna start by coming all the way over here to Nashville, Tennessee for a convention around mid-April. I have a wedding to go to in Mexico, so I'm gonna be flying from the van to a wedding, flying back, and then around the end of April, early May is when I'm hitting the road, and I'm going to be on the road almost full time. I'm gonna be sort of zigzagging down and up all the way across until I get all the way out west. And then I'll come up all the way to the north and then sort of zigzag my way back through the northern half of the states. Once I do that, I think I will be landing back around Pennsylvania early fall time, maybe late summer. And then from there, I'll just do a simple East Coast trip all the way down to where I used to live in Miami Beach, and then back up, visiting friends and family, stuff like that along the way. Now again, any pins that you see in this map are not final. This is just a very rough outline of some things that I want to see along the way. Just because I have one pin in Montana all the way up here doesn't mean I'm just going there and leaving. I'm going to be driving across the entire state. I'm going to see as much of the United States as possible for the rest of the year. I've also been getting a lot of questions about meetups and things like that, and for the most part that's probably not something that I'm going to be doing. I do have some cities pinned up on the map, but for the most part I'm going to be staying away from cities. Of course there are some that I will have to drive through, but for the most part I'm going to be hitting state parks, national parks, some touristy attractions that are outside of the cities. The possibilities are pretty much endless, and I really don't have a set plan. I'm just gonna go with the flow and see where the road takes me. Now if you do want to follow along and get the most up-to-date details of where I'm at and where I'm going to be, Instagram is definitely the best place to do that. It's super easy for me to just throw up a story and be like, hey, I'm in southern Texas at the Alamo today. If you guys want to come through, I will be here for the next hour or so. So if you want to follow along and possibly meet me and see the van and everything, that is the best place to follow along and do something like that. If you guys do see me on the road and we get a chance to talk, I do have some exclusive gifts to give to you guys in person. This is something that I'm not selling. It's just a simple gift from me to you to say thank you for following along with the journey. And I'm hoping that I can actually run into a lot of you guys, because you already know a lot about me and I would like to meet some of you guys in person as well. So that is the plan for the 2020 SATvan road trip. I have a lot of things that I need to do before this whole thing starts, so I believe I covered all my bases, and if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. If you guys are excited for this journey, I would appreciate if you left a like on this video, and if you're new to the channel, I would definitely consider subscribing, because this is going to be a lot of fun over the next 6 to 8 months. I think that's all that I had for today, so it's time to get the SATvan ready and hit the road. Thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you in the next one.